Welcome to Motley Fool Money. Thanks for being here. I'm your host, Chris Hill. Joining me in studio this week from Motley Fool Income Investor James Early and from $1 Million Portfolio Charlie Travers and Ron Gross. Good to see you as always, gentlemen.
Good to see you, Chris. As
We've
always.
got the latest from big retail, big technology, and more. We have got the most exciting innovation in air travel since little bags of peanuts. And as always, we've got a few stocks on our radar. But we begin this week with the cell phone industry because I don't know if you knew this, Ron, but this week marked the 40th anniversary of the cell phone. Back in the day, you probably had like the old school, the really old school phones.
Do you know who the first guy who made the first call was?
Was it
Motorola?
Alexander Graham Bell?
Martin Cooper was the gentleman's name.
Never would have got that.
Good little trivia there. We got a lot going on in the industry this week, and let's start with the fact that Facebook unveiled Facebook Home, a new experience for Android phones. And Ron, if I understand this correctly, based on the photographs, it just seems like if I had an Android phone, Facebook would be my homepage. So I'm always on Facebook.
Oh, you understand it correctly, Chris.
And
is that exciting to you?
Not to me. Is it exciting to you?
It is not exciting to me. We do own Facebook in $1 Million Portfolio, and we do think it's an interesting company with a long growth runway ahead of it. This is underwhelming to me. People were waiting to see if Facebook was going to create their own phone. The answer is no. They're going to create this neat homepage instead. I'm not an early adopter of things like this, so I might not be the right guy to ask, but it doesn't sound that interesting to me to be always connected to Facebook, for it to be my homepage, for me to be able to constantly click and like things and look at pictures. Not what I'm looking for.
It's creepy, too. Let's just say it, right? It's creepy.
But
they want to know everything about you.
Our own opinions on this aside, the stock went up on Thursday after the announcement was made, when people, presumably institutional investors among them, had the chance to digest this idea. Right. As a shareholder of Facebook, do you think this is going to help them make more money?
Well, the key to Facebook is to increase their presence in mobile. That's what everyone's been saying for I can't remember how long. And so people, I guess, think that this helps to do that. I think it probably will help. Is it going to? I don't think it's an end game, though. I just don't think it's where it took me by surprise, and I'm not that excited about it.
You're still coming to terms emotionally with it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's new. It's new for me.
Okay.
Also this week, Samsung announced it is going to open 1,400 mini stores inside Best Buy locations across America this summer. It's going to be called the Samsung Experience Shop. And Charlie, each one of them, if you go into a Best Buy, each one, it's going to be an entire section. It's all Samsung products, TVs, smartphones, tablets. They really seem like they are just taking the fight to Apple.
I think this is win-win for both Samsung and especially for Best Buy, which desperately needed something to get people in the doors and excited about coming to Best Buy, not just shopping on Amazon. Let's hope they do a better job of it than Apple and Best Buy did when you walked in the store and all the Apple laptops and tablets were essentially on a folding table with no support. Samsung does look like they're going to do it right. They are going to have their own trained personnel to explain how all the devices work together, from the TVs to the tablets to the phones. So I think this is very compelling.
This is mostly about the phones, though, right?
Well, they do have their tablets are very highly regarded as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
When we were talking about this earlier in the week, James, I mean, one of the points you made was, hey, look, Apple still has their own retail stores. They still have, end cap. They still have a retail presence. So it sounds like if you're representing the opinion of Apple, you're not that worried about this.
Yeah, Apple stores obviously have massive profitability per square foot. They're cool to go to. Apple does have kiosks in Best Buy, so it's not like they're missing out. This is a gradual encroachment, though, by Samsung, by Android more broadly on the Apple ecosystem. So for that, given Apple's momentum now, that could be a slight sign of worry.
We also saw earlier this week the apology that the CEO Tim Cook issued in China. There was some media attention a couple of weeks ago, Ron, where basically Apple was accused of having second-rate customer service in China.
Yeah.
And it seems like it was the right move by Tim Cook, and yet he still got criticized for it by some in the media. It kind of seems like this has been a horrible 6 months for this company, whereas for so long they could do no wrong. Now it's almost like they can't do anything right.
Right, but that's kind of the way these things go. People love to knock the top guy down a peg, and once the momentum shifts, it just continues to roll downhill. And I think that's mostly what we've seen. The fact that we haven't seen a new product come out from them is exacerbating the issue, but I mean, the Mini, it wasn't that long ago. People get very, very impatient very quickly, add a couple missteps in, and you have the stock where it is now. But I continue to think it's a really great bargain here.
What is the next thing that you are watching in this space? And it can be Apple, it can be Samsung, Google, Facebook, anyone in the cell phone space. Is it just sort of what is the next big event? Because when we look at Apple, it seems like to the extent that they're going to have a new product to unveil, it could be, maybe 6 months away from now. Is it the next quarter? What are you watching next in this space?
I think the fact that we see the iPad being slashed 30% in Best Buy stores this week is perhaps an indication that it won't be that long until we see the next Apple product. And we don't know what that is, whether it's an operating system or a new iPad or an iWatch or what have you. But that's for me is the next thing because I want to see the stock turn.
Are you an Apple man personally? Do we discuss this?
We own many iPads, Macs, phones, yeah.
Charlie, what about you in the cell phone space? What are you watching over the next couple of months?
So it's interesting to see that Windows phone market share actually doubled this quarter, year
What?
over year. So they're approaching
kidding?
the mid to high single digits. And I think if they creep over 10%, they have to be regarded as a legitimate third player. And so they are having, rumoredly, a new operating system come out later this year that could be the catalyst. But I don't think you can count them out.
I'll be honest, it didn't even occur to me to mention Microsoft in this segment, so thank you for reminding me they're still around. In a surprise move this week, Japan's central bank announced it would double its monetary supply in an effort to spur the economy, and at least in the short term, James, when you look at the Nikkei index, it seems to have had the desired effect. What is this going to mean for Japan's economy, and selfishly, what is the ripple effect, if any, for U.S. investors?
Well, there's a short-term and a long-term effect, Chris. Obviously, for the past, 25 years, Japan has had deflation. They've just had more and more debt. So now they're devaluing their currency. It makes it easier for them to pay back that debt, and it makes it easier for them to export because their products are cheaper for other countries. So on the surface, it's good for Toyota. It's good for Sony, those types of companies. Toyota stock is up several percent today on this news. Long term, we don't know if this is going to work. We don't know also what's going to happen with Japan's population. They've got fewer and fewer people. I think the death rate is higher than the birth rate.
Wow, that was an ominous note.
Yeah.
Well, on the flip
Way to
side,
bring down the party.
it makes their imports more expensive, right? Because they are energy dependent and they have to buy oil with depreciated yen.
The raw materials. But they don't have a ton there.
Right.
It's going to be cheaper to go to Japan, though, to travel.
I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe, at least in the short to near term, maybe a win for U.S. consumers, but the jury's still out for U.S. investors?
Correct.
Shares of Panera hit an all-time high this week, in part due to an upgrade from Goldman Sachs. And Charlie, to be fair, they're not the only one upgrading this stock. This has really been a great 2 to 3 year run for this company.
Well, it should be. It's a phenomenal company. I love going there. They deliver great value to their customers. The food is good, and it's not really a shocker that they are the top casual dining chain in the country. They did 30% earnings per share growth last year, and they are at pretty close to peak profit margins, which is why the stock has done so well. But that said, they're trading at 30 times earnings, and with 1,600 stores, you wonder how much growth they really have left in there.
I was just going to say, because they've had double-digit sales and profit growth the last 3 years, that's a great run. But as an investor, and I don't own shares of this, but I see something like that, and I just wonder, to what extent can they even come close to that over the next 3 years?
Well, they're guiding for high teens earnings growth again this year, so maybe they can, surprise on the upside.
Do you like the stock at an all-time high?
It looks a little rich to me, Chris, but I've been proven wrong here for years running.
Coming up, an exciting new innovation in the world of airline ticket pricing. Stay right here. You're listening to Motley Fool Money. As always, people on the program may have interest in the stocks they talk about, and the Motley Fool may have formal recommendations for or against. So don't buy or sell stocks based solely on what you hear. Welcome back to Motley Fool Money. Chris Hill here in studio with James Early, Charlie Travers, and Ron Gross. Guys, shares of Zynga were up more than 13% on Wednesday after the company announced it will launch 2 new real money gambling games in the UK. There's a poker game and a casino game, Ron, which is slots and other table games. And hey, we are a long way from Farmville. I love this move. I love this.
Yeah, I've criticized Zynga, the company and the stock, for so long. It's going to be hard to get me to turn. But I will say this is really, really interesting for them. It's the beginning, obviously. They seem to indicate that they're going to wait in the U.S. for it to be a national law, for it to be legal nationally versus just for New Jersey, for example.
Yeah.
But it could be huge, and in that case, this stock could look interesting here. But I don't know. It's a lot based on a bet on the future.
What is your opinion on the ethics of online gambling?
I hold no opinion.
Okay.
I want to ask you about two different industries, and Charlie, I'll just start with the video gaming industry. If you are Electronic Arts, if you're Activision Blizzard, how closely are you watching this story? Because you have to believe someone within both of those companies is agitating for, hey, you know what? We can make some money here.
They both have a online system where they're very tightly connected to their customers already, and importantly in the gaming market, it's a relationship based on trust. If you are on various poker sites, you're always worried that the site is going to rip you off and cheat, and you don't worry about that with Activision or with Electronic Arts. So if this does work, they could have the reputational advantage, and they've definitely got the balance sheet and the technological capabilities to get in here.
Is this exposed to a lot of litigation risk, though? I mean, is this something that could go away, or is the trend, it sounds like, rolling more in the favor of this stuff?
I think overseas they're okay, but yeah, I agree in the United States it would be problematic.
Ron, what about the casino industry? Same question, just a different version. If you're Wynn, if you're MGM Grand, how closely are you watching this, and to what extent are you looking to either just do this on your own or possibly just buy Zynga outright if you feel like they can do it well?
Well, when the tide started to turn with like for example New Jersey, as I said, passing kind of legalizing it, I think they probably started in a big way to look into this. It makes perfect sense for them. I don't know if they want to build it from a technological perspective on their own. They would obviously, I think, partner with someone from that perspective, but it would be a huge win for the major casinos, I would imagine. So they got to be looking hard at it.
Finally, guys, Samoa Air, a small airline in Samoa, has started pricing its international flights based on the weight of its passengers and their bags. So depending on the flight, each kilogram will cost between 93 cents and $1.06. It has been using this weight-based pricing since June. Back in January, the U.S. Department of Transportation approved this pricing for an international route between Samoa and American Samoa. James, I love this. Maybe it's because I don't have to actually fly the airline.
Who knew Samoa had an airline?
They got their own airline.
Logistically innovative. It seems fair, right? I mean, they pay for the fuel. We pay already for baggage weight in the U.S. This is just an extension of that, ostensibly.
Well, to the fairness issue, I want to read a quote from the CEO, Chris Langdon. He says, when this announcement was made, he said, planes are run by weight and not by seat, and travelers should be educated on this important issue. The planes can only carry a certain amount of weight, and that weight needs to be paid. And you know what, Ron? Personally, if instead of paying full fare for my 3 children, if I can just pay based on their weight, I'm guessing that's going to be less money for me.
I would imagine there must be some minimum, though, right? And once you start going over that minimum, like with your bag, as long as you stay under 50 pounds, you're good with Southwest. But I might have
use the bathroom
I
before
might have
boarding.
to start exercising a little more if I'm going to fly into Samoa.
Do you think any U.S. airline would attempt anything like this, even Charlie, if it was something along the lines of, hey, listen, we're gonna float you the first 200 pounds combined, your weight and your bag weight, and then over that you're going to pay more? Would anyone have the guts to do something like this?
The discrimination lawsuits would be filed before the first passenger got in the air.
Fair enough. Let's bring in our man, Steve Broido, from the other side of the glass as we get to the stocks that are on our radar. Ron Gross, you're up first.
Horsehead Holdings, Steve, ticker symbol Zinc, Z-I-N-C, producer of zinc-related products, shockingly. So the commodity price of zinc has come down recently, and so therefore the stock price of Horsehead has followed suit. It's actually allowed me to raise the stock to a buy recently. I think it's a really good opportunity here.
Steve, question about Horsehead Holdings?
First off, a statement. That's a very unpleasant name for a company. Second, what do I do with zinc? What do I need zinc for?
Most of zinc is used to galvanize steel, but then it's also used in paints and ceramics and rubber. Well, zinc oxide and sunblocks, sure. Many different uses.
Steve, do you have any galvanizing steel projects around the home that you're working on?
Nothing going currently, but I will keep you posted. You'll be the first to know.
All right, James Early, your
I'm
stock?
going back to Xinyuan Real Estate. The ticker is XIN. These guys make middle class family housing in second tier Chinese cities, not the biggest ones that have seen the most price appreciation. Beijing has recently moved to curb buying additional homes. These are things that try to avert a bubble or bubbles worsening. And the stock has traded down a little bit, but I actually see these negatives as long-term positives if they can actually avert some sort of bubble from bursting, and it's very good for a company like this. It's a legitimate Chinese development company. Pays a dividend too.
Steve, question about negatives turning into long-term positives?
What happens if interest rates rise in this country?
Xinyuan is Chinese.
No, I know.
So,
as a Chinese company, interest rates rise significantly here.
Yeah.
Now you can get a mortgage at 3.5%. Let's say you go to 4.5%, 5%. Will people be fleeing for international real estate investments?
well, Chinese are already doing that to some degree, and Xinyuan is actually getting ahead of the curve by buying up properties in Brooklyn and I think Reno and in various places near gambling areas. Those are popular destinations for Chinese moving to the U.S. So I would say the overall migration to the U.S. is another positive trend for these guys.
Is that good for humanity?
You know, I have to go pull a Ron here. I have no opinion on that.
Charlie Travers, your stock this week.
I'm going with Burger King. The company is really reinventing itself. They notably fell behind behind McDonald's and Wendy's in the United States, but they're investing a lot of money to refresh their stores. They are changing their marketing campaigns to get away from the king. And internationally,
Thank God.
yeah, I mean, they had some really creepy commercials there for a while, but they're appealing to a family audience now. And they're using joint ventures in places like Brazil, Russia, and China to expand their overseas footprint. And this is all going very well for them, and the stock has responded.
And they have sweet potato fries.
Do they really?
Yes.
I've never tried this.
Now I'm interested. Between that and the bacon sundae, I'm interested. Steve, question about Burger King?
Do you believe the French fries have gotten worse? I think there was a time when they were really advertising improved fries. We've really fixed our fries, and I thought they just made them worse. Thoughts?
I love Burger King, but to be honest, you can't beat McDonald's fries. I got to go there.
Steve, Chinese real estate, Zinc, and Burger King. Of those three, do you have an investment that's particularly appealing to you?
I know very little about zinc, but I have to say I'm interested.
You're in Horsehead Holdings?
Yeah, bring it on.
Nice.
I mean, back to Steve's question. Who came up with the name, and does it
believe
have anything to do with the Godfather?
It has to do with New Jersey. I believe the symbol of New Jersey is the horse head, if I'm not mistaken.
Wait,
and
what?
That's where,
What, really?
where the company...
There's a state symbol?
Yeah, it has to do with something like that. Google it, folks.
I'm going to Google that once we're done with the show. I want to bring Steve back for one question, because I should have brought you in a little earlier, Steve. The whole notion of Samoa Air and the weight-based pricing, how do you feel about that? Is that something you would love to see some U.S. carriers pick up?
It is interesting. I had a motto: goldfish fly free. That was my motto there. But for people, I mean, how the average male weighs, what, 180 pounds or so? If you're 175 or 165, does it really make any difference? I mean, are you going to get that targeted? Doesn't seem like a very good
You
use
could
of
have
time.
buckets. You could have broad categories, yeah.
And if I bring a bowling ball, I'm just out of luck.
We'll wrap it up there. Ron Gross, James Early, Charlie Travers. Guys, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Chris.
Coming up, a conversation with best-selling author Dan Heath on how to make better decisions at work and in life. This is Motley Fool Money.